Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read, and today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. So this video is going to be about all the books that I read in September and what I thought about them. I had a pretty good reading month. I originally planned to read 7 books and I only got to 6 of them. So I didn't quite finish the TBR, but that's okay because I was being a little ambitious. I find that anytime I go like over 6 books, I usually don't quite make it, but I try and read as much as I can. And a lot of the books were prompts for the Magical Readathon, which is going to be like continuous throughout the year. So like I can still do those prompts at any time. I was just trying to be ambitious and get them all done at once. So yeah. I was also camping for one of the weekends in September, so that kind of did take away some of my reading time. There was a lot of portaging during that camping trip and it was exhausting, but we did it. Anyways, besides the point, I did get a little bit of reading time in the hammock while we were camping, but not too much. Anyway, let's jump into the books that I've read and I'll tell you what I thought about them. So the first book I read was One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. And this is a thriller about a bunch of kids that are, it's kind of like Breakfast Club style. I always say this, but like it really is kind of, where a bunch of kids are in detention together, but then one of the kids in the detention ends up dying. And then the rest of the remaining kids from detention are all suspects in this kid's potential murder. Like they know he died, but they don't know if it was murder or not. Anyways, so that's like the opening of the book. And then the whole book is like these 4 kids following their different perspectives and trying to figure out what happened to the one kid. So it was pretty good. I found that I kind of felt like I knew where it was going from the very beginning of the book. And then I wasn't really that surprised by the twist ending. I don't know. Maybe I've just watched too many shows or like read too many thrillers, but like I found it just to be a tad predictable. Although I did really like following along with the different perspectives because the whole time you're trying to like figure out who is the bad egg here, if there even is a bad egg, and you're wanting to try and like piece together different things that each person is saying to be like, oh, maybe it's this person. Oh, maybe it's this person. So I found that like a lot of fun and kind of like a puzzle. So I enjoyed that aspect to it, but I don't know. I found it like it was good and it was good enough to keep me reading quickly, which is why it had a 4-star because I was like engrossed in the book and I wanted to get through it. The ending just wasn't as satisfying as I was hoping. And that's okay. It's a thriller book. It happens. I also have seen that this is going to be turned into a TV show, and I saw the actors for the TV show, and they don't like look like what I pictured. But I'm still probably going to watch the show because I want to see like how they do it, and I want to see if it's a good adaptation. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But anyways, I would definitely read more of Karen M. McManus. I've also read The Cousins by her, and I did enjoy that one as well. So I would definitely read more by her. The next book I read was Game Changer by Neal Shusterman. This was actually given to me by a friend, Neil, to borrow and read. He read it and said that it was something that is very like up my alley and something that I would like. So I picked it up and I really did enjoy this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This book is about a main character who is a linebacker, I believe, on a football team. And so one game when he tackles somebody really hard, he notices like some sort of like weird feeling of kind of like a shift. All of a sudden starts noticing subtle changes in his life, like just little things, and realizes that he might not be in the same timeline that he was in the beginning. So it's really cool. Like the way this book plays out, there are so many social issues that are discussed in this book, and the way that it's done is very interesting. I thought that it was really cool to see like how they worked through those different things and how the main character had to adapt or like work through trying to get back to their main timeline. I can't really say much more because that gives away like a lot of what the book is about. So I don't want to say anything, but there is like a really big thing that happens in this book, and I think it's a really good book. This was also my first time experiencing Neal Shusterman's writing style. I have not picked up any other books by them. I know that their very popular series is the Scythe trilogy, which I do want to eventually read. But this was my first time reading his stuff, and I really liked the way he writes. So yeah, I definitely would be open to reading more books by Neal Shusterman. Next up, I read Silent Screams by Zachary Ryan, and this book is following a group of friends after a school shooting. The catch is that the group of friends, the school shooter was one of these kids in that group of friends. And so now they're struggling with like surviving the school shooting, but also their emotions on how to feel, because they don't know, like, it would be really hard to deal with that considering you've grown up as this person's friend, being their friend, and then they did this. And so it's more of like a hard-hitting book. Zach Ryan usually writes like sassy, dramatic books, and this one still has a bit of sass and drama to it, but like it's a lot more hard-hitting, deals with heavier topics. And yeah, I thought it was decent. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I read through it fairly quickly, and it also splits up the perspectives from all the different characters from this friend group, so you get like a little bit of differentiation between the characters, which is nice, and you get to see their like all their different stories and motivations for why they're doing different things. So I thought that was pretty interesting. If anybody does want to pick this up though, trigger warnings for violence obviously, but also suicide, so just go into it knowing that. Next up, I finished another trilogy and I read Dispel Illusion by Mark Lawrence. So this series follows a main character, Nick, who is part of a group of friends who get together a lot and play D&D. It spans over like a large duration of time. The first book starts in their teen years and then it like keeps going and keeps going. And so this book is the final one in the series. And this one dealt a lot with like time, which was really cool. And one thing I really love about this series is that the titles for each book are like different spells in Dungeons and Dragons. So Dispel Illusion is like actually a spell. And it's just fun because like in every book, D&D is a big part of the book, and they have like different interactions that are happening in their D&D games, but they're also happening kind of in like real life, or they relate to something that's happening in real life. So I think that's really fun. And yeah, I just like, I love any book that really deals with time, and this one dealt with it in such a cool way. And so I was like pulled in. I loved reading this from start to finish. I will say I only gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because I think that the second one in this series was my favorite, but this one was a pretty strong contender. And it was fun because a lot of the time this book is set in like the late 80s, early 90s. So it's kind of like a flashback for me. I was born in the 90s. So like I relate to a lot of the things that they're talking about in this book. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Or I remember those like things that were on TV and stuff like that. So it's fun. It's kind of like a nostalgia read, and I did really enjoy it. Then I read The Stranger Inside by Laura Benedict. So this was a thriller about a woman who goes away for a weekend and comes home to find that a stranger has moved into her house and she can no longer get into her own house. The stranger changed the locks, and so she gets in touch with the police and things go from there. It's essentially her trying to get back into her house and like get her life back on track. And yeah, I feel like this book could have been a little bit shorter. I only ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. I believe that it wasn't very thrilling. I was going into this expecting like a creepy book where like she does get back into her house and things start happening, and that's like what I was expecting. Kind of like a creepy house vibe where somebody's in the house but they don't know that somebody else is in the house. Like, if that makes sense. But this one didn't really go in that direction, and I don't know, I found myself kind of bored. I also found that the main character was somebody that like was a very unlikable main character, so I didn't really feel any attachment to them or like anything that was happening in their life. It just didn't really like affect me. I don't know, if I'm wanting to be invested in a thriller, I want to like the main character and I want to be like rooting for them. But in this sense, if anything was happening that was like a good thing, I was just like, okay, whatever. I did not really care for them at all. And I feel like I kind of called what was going to happen, which is like cool because I like being able to figure it out. But at the same time, like I feel like it was a little too easy to figure out. And so, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite book, but it was still okay, which is why I gave it a 3 out of 5. And then lastly, I read The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. This book was about a boy who could see like the ghost world at the same time as the real world. And so like he would have different interactions happening with the ghost world while going about his day-to-day life, going to high school, being a teenager. And so I did enjoy this book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought that it was a really cool premise, and it was a lot of fun seeing those different interactions between the main character and the ghost world. But at the same time, I feel like the descriptions of the ghost world were a little bit rushed, and the plot overall kind of felt rushed. It went from scene to scene very quickly, things happened, and then there was like little resolution. So yeah, it just felt like it was a very like straightforward plot line that was just going at a very fast pace, but we didn't get enough like backstory or information on different subjects. Personally, I wanted to know a lot more about the ghost world and like the history of his family and how different people could interact with the ghost world and see different things and hear different spirits. And like, I just wanted to know more about the ghost world, but we didn't get that much of it, which was kind of disappointing. I will say that the relationships built in this book were kind of fun though, and I did enjoy those quite a bit because like Jake being a character that can see the ghost world and the real world, he is kind of a misfit because he is conserved to himself and doesn't really like, he's not really like an outspoken person. And so it was fun to kind of like see his character growth, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, overall, I just thought the plot was just really quick and things were described too fast and you didn't really get to like engross yourself in the world. So yeah. And those are all the books that I read in September. Let me know if you've read any of these books and tell me in the comments down below because I would love to hear your opinions on them. I'm super excited for October. I've already started one of my October books, so like I'm jumping into it and I'm gonna have a great time with these like creepy, spooky books. And yeah, and now for our independent bookstore shout out. Okay guys, so for today's independent bookstore, it's for Russell Books, which is in Victoria, British Columbia. So this is their site. It's a little different from the regular book sites, but I love the green color because that's my favorite color, so that's wonderful. So they're celebrating 60 years as a family business. This is actually like a family-run bookstore that opened in Montreal and has a couple different locations now. So this is their site. I love that they support their community too and donate to charity. It's fantastic. And they have like a section on here to even show their different events that they'll be having at their store, which is great. So let's go check out what books they have. They have them in categories here with different reels. So there's fiction, children's books, young adult. This is a fantastic book, by the way. Turtles All the Way Down. Let's see. Cool. Ooh, they got collectibles. Calendars. Everybody's gonna need a new calendar soon. Studio Ghibli collectible postcards. I know a lot of you would think that's pretty cool. There's 100 of them for $30. That's so cheap. They also have trading that they do too, so you can check that out. So yeah, definitely check out russellbooks.com. If you guys want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Ko-fi page, which I'll put in the description down below, as well as linked by my bookmarks. You guys know the drill. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you get notified when I post new videos. I post my videos on Mondays and Thursdays. And until next time, keep on reading.